So, David, we at Eurasia Group have been working with you, and I'm very proud to say it, on something we call the Atlas of Impunity. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it is and some of the big conclusions from the report.
Yes, it's been a great collaboration. I've not become a Eurasia Group employee. I've been chairing the advisory board of the Atlas of Impunity, which is a co-production of the staff at Eurasia Group, supported by the Chicago Council on Foreign Affairs and funded by the Open Society Foundation. And it's really a unique global product that's been created by your team, who've really worked very well on this. Impunity is the idea of the exercise of power without accountability. In its most extreme form, it is crimes without punishment. And the case that I made to you 2 years ago in an email that recently we resurfaced was that impunity, the exercise of power without accountability, was both on the rise but also undocumented. And that it wasn't confined to the war zones where the International Rescue Committee works, but that covered swathes of national and international life. So the Atlas ranks every country in the world on 5 aspects of impunity: in conflict, human rights, governance, also though economic exploitation and environmental degradation. Just to pause for a moment on the 5th of those, I think it's very important that we've included the environment. It's a new way of seeing the climate crisis, but we argue it's a site of impunity because current generations are acting without any accountability from future generations, and humans are acting with no accountability from the planet, because obviously the planet has no votes.
So what we're talking about, these are either rogue actors or actors that are acting as rogue actors, and nothing is being done. There is no accountability, there is no documentation, and we need to shine a light on these practices if we're ever going to be able to effectively respond to them.
Well, there are rogue actors and there are not so rogue actors, and then there are quite good actors, because every scale of impunity is balanced by accountability. And we rank these countries across the 5 indicators. There's no political judgment. Everyone around the world can look at the Atlas of Impunity. It's been built with no political judgments. It's 67 sources of data. Atlasofimpunity.com allows anyone to look at what how their own country scores. And here's the thing, Ian, that while you may have guessed that Afghanistan and Syria would be very high for impunity and that Finland and Denmark would be very poor, within those 2 extremes, there's a lot of very, very interesting data. The US scores much worse than Germany. There are median-level countries, the UAE, Indonesia, Malawi, that don't have much in common. Some are big, some are small, some are north, some are south, some are rich, some are poor. There are different ways in which the lens of impunity shows up, different ways in which countries are holding power to account across economic, social, and political domains. And it's intended, precisely as you say, to be a tool for people around the world to use. It's been the subject of extensive press coverage I most recently saw in Latin America. And our colleagues at the Chicago Council are organizing a series of regional seminars with think tanks and universities to try and bring this out. So I think it's been a very productive process.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm enormously happy that we're doing it, and the fact that you've been talking publicly about impunity for years now, something that comes out of a global order that's more fragmented, that's more leaderless, but you have to have the methodology, you have to have the actual research, the data that you can start to respond to. So I'm wondering, do you have any, and this is a bit of an unfair question, but any early thoughts on what some of the policy responses might be?
Well, that's really where we need to take this. I think that the way to think about policy response, not just policy, but citizens' response, business response, is that if we are agreed that the abuse of power is an increasing danger in our world today, we need countervailing power to take it on. That countervailing power starts with transparency, but then it flows on to actions that governments, businesses, civil society needs to take. And I'm pleased that there's more exposure of the abuse of power, but we need much more because many of the political systems are blocked. But we also need to develop the leverage that can make people think again. There are huge discussions going on about international courts of justice. There are big discussions going on about the need to defend ESG, environmental, social, and governmental responsibilities of business. I think this is a productive debate and one that we should wade into.